Do you want to know about how BYD can make 1.42 billion US dollars profit in just 3 months? Because I think a lot of us would love to know what it is they're actually doing. So I've done some research for us, especially as well when you consider their stock chart looks like this for the past year. So, and this is also a time where Warren Buffett and his company keeps selling huge amounts of, tens of millions of dollars worth of shares that he holds from BYD stocks. And, BYD is meeting a lot of resistance over in Europe. So how are they managing to make that much profit at a time like this? What is it? What's their magic ingredient in their business? And I think I've got the answer. I think I kind of understand what it is. So grab a drink and relax for just a few minutes. This is not a very long video, and I'll walk you through what I think they're doing, and we'll go through some numbers and have a look. Thanks for tuning in again, folks. Welcome back. I'm Ben Alexander. If you're new to the channel, so please consider subscribing for me. I think subscribing helps the channel grow on YouTube, but it definitely helps me when you will watch and you want to follow along in all of my videos. I post every day because I post news videos every day. So remember as well to press the little icon, I think it's like an arrow or a bell sometimes, next to the subscribe button so you can select notifications. So then YouTube actually will show you my videos on a daily basis. A quick thank you again as well to the people that chuck $1 or $2 or $3. I've got a couple of new tiers now every month on YouTube memberships and Patreon. Thank you very much for those donations. What have we got here then with BYD? Based on the latest data from this last 3 months, Q3 2023, BYD has showcased really, really good financial figures. Again, everyone kind of knew that was going to happen because they've just been doing this back to back for the last couple of years, largely driven by a huge surge in EV sales and effective cost management, which I think is one of their keys, really. So just having a good sense of what is an unnecessary expense, what is not healthy for their business. So here's a breakdown of BYD's Q3 profits and contributing factors. So net profit, BYD forecasted its net profit for Q3 2023 to be between 1.31 billion US dollars and 1.57, marking an increase of 67% to 102% compared to the same period last year. So the actual profit that they got was 1.42, so smack in the middle, 1.42 billion US dollars for 3 months. So that represents an 82.2% increase from earlier on in the year. So some of you may remember as well that I mentioned BYD hoped to sell almost 3 million vehicles, or close to 3 million vehicles this year, very roughly. So triple, actually, I think it's very roughly triple what they sold last year they want to do this year, which I think we can all agree is an insane jump in sales. That's pretty crazy that they can say that publicly. They're almost avowing it. It's crazy. And they really aren't far from hitting that target. I don't think they will hit it, but they're pretty close. So yeah, sales growth, a significant portion of their profit can be attributed to their EV sales. Not just that though, because they don't just sell EVs, they also make ICE vehicles in China, and electric bits, for example, iPad screens. They sell those and make those and sell them to Apple. The company sold 824,000 NEVs, new energy vehicles. So 824,000 vehicles in the third quarter. So 824,000 EVs, pretty much, which was up by 53% from a year ago, so last Q3 in 2022, which is brilliant, I think. Export sales and domestic resilience. Analysts pointed out that BYD had a much higher return on investment from exports and achieved more cost reductions, which contributed to the net profit in the end, what actually hits their bank account. So the strong export sales and I guess the internet as well, people around the world, before the cars even got into their country for sale, people are kind of wanting it. And resilience in China, domestic price cut cycles versus its competitors were also highlighted as a positive factor for BYD's profitability. I can't really offer any evidence on just how resilient they actually were in the price cuts in China, in the price wars, which I don't like saying that. So it is hard for me to verify it, but it was mentioned by some very credible people in the China Post, basically in the China press. So I just wanted to point out that this is a bit of information. It's not actually factual. It's just a bit of information that may or may not be a bit true. But it is possible as an explanation, to serve as an explanation as to why they have made good profits in China, because they really, really have. Obviously, there's no shipping costs, and there'll be, very little taxes and that sort of thing. So they can sell their cars quite cheaply in China. So BYD hit a record high in NEV sales during the third quarter. So they actually ranked, finally, I can say this, they actually ranked the first in the world in terms of NEV sales. So even more than Tesla, for example. This surge in sales significantly contributed to the net profit for this quarter. So additionally, BYD's international collaborations, such as the agreement to sell 2,000 electric buses, that's a lot of money, to Uzbekistan, and teaming up with, I can't say this, Tashkent municipal government for promoting the electrification of public transportation in their capital, also showcased BYD's expanding global footprint, which potentially contributes to its profitability. Probably. It's really hard to quantify that stuff, but it really probably does. Those factors combined show how BYD has managed to almost double its net profits in Q3 this year. So the well-managed operational costs and really successful marketing strategies have positioned BYD as a really good, solid competitor in the EV market. Not just in China, not just in Australia, where 80% of the EVs that came this year were from China, on a boat from China. So this reflects, I think, its financial performance for the quarter. They've done really, really well, and they are selling more affordable EVs at a time where legacy auto has and still is letting us down with overpriced EVs. So they're doing really well. That's a bit of a crater that they're filling in, really. Legacy automakers such as Toyota and Honda have existing supply chain and manufacturing setups, very heavily geared towards ICE vehicles, which most certainly has slowed them down in their transition to EV production. Also, there's some other stuff at the back end, in the bosses' minds. And I suspect this is what has happened. They are only going to turn their hand fully to EVs once they are forced to in some way, or they deem themselves pushed into a corner, or when their sales plummet drastically to a point where they need to then perform a last-ditch effort to save the company. So that's how I see this going. They've worked for decades, for example, Honda, finessing their products in all sorts of ways. Within a handful of years, the world has basically told them to alter their businesses in quite a drastic way, make EVs. And, for Honda, this wasn't ideal because the engines in a Honda vehicle are basically the USP, if you will. It's their unique selling point. It's what you would quite possibly buy a Honda for. Generally, if you've got Honda that's falling to bits, it will still start and get you to where you want to be. So to get rid of this and stick a motor instead of this thing that they've worked on for decades is quite tough, I think, for these companies to accept and then commit to with any sort of passion. And I think EVs represent too much risk for them. But it seems like this past year, Legacy Auto has started to grasp that this isn't going away. It's been, 10 years. And we had the Nissan Leaf, and then we've got these other cars and Tesla. And we're 10 years ago, the world didn't look like it does look today. It's crazy. So what do you all think to this new world that we're in with regards BYD, being as big a player as it is now in the vehicle EV arena? Do you genuinely like the setup on the roads as it is now, whereby there are basically half a dozen brands of vehicles on the roads with a few models each? Or do you think that we could kind of do with some more manufacturers stepping in, more competition? So I think there's something to be said when basically every second person that you see on the road drives a Honda Jazz or a Toyota Corolla, because parts are really easy to find and then swap. And to also buy these parts, they're often quite local. YouTube videos of things being fixed, they're everywhere, so it's really easy to fix things. So I personally would not want to see 1,000 new EV manufacturers flooding our markets. I don't particularly want that. It's kind of like the phone market. It's hard to get parts when you buy weird brand phones. But I like it if everyone just buys good EVs. Hence why I like BYD. They do genuinely make really good cars, and I'm quite keen to see if companies like Geely start selling more EVs in Europe too, and also, some cheaper models, not just fancy 100,000 euro models, for some privileged people. Thank you very much for watching to the end, folks. Remember as well to like the video if you found it at all interesting. And also please feel free to comment anything below, any questions at all. I always read the comments and I make a huge effort to go through them every other day or every day or two. And I'll get back to you. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.